me call the Berkley City Planning Commission to order for its regular meeting of Tuesday, September the 22nd, 2015. Would you all rise for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a roll call, please?
Smith?
Here.
Murad?
Here.
Richardson?
Here.
Shadle? Here. Buckler? Pop? Here. Morrell?
Here.
Tangari?
Here.
Barnett?
Present. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Murad. Is there
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Pop? Any discussion on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Morrell?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Tangari?
Yes.
Shadle?
Yes.
Smith?
Yep.
Murad?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. See if I got them in the right order here.
August 18th.
August the 18th, minutes of the meeting of August the 18th. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Pop, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shadle. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Tangari?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Murad?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Morrell?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Shadle?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes. Now I entertain a motion to approve the work session from September the 8th, 2015. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Mr. Murad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner. I got you both twisted tonight. I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
Murad and Morrell, right? Yeah.
Got Murad and Morrell.
Yep.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Richardson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Shadle?
Yes.
Murad?
Yes.
Tangari?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Morrell?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes. Now entertain a motion there is no motion. Is there communications tonight?
You have DDA minutes, and then you do have information from LSL, but we can talk about that when we get to that item.
Okay, I'll entertain, open the meeting for citizens' comments. Any citizen who would care to address the Planning Commission on any topic not on our agenda may do so at this time. Step up to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and you can have the floor. And seeing no citizens rushing to the microphone, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Citizens will have an opportunity to participate in discussions as we move through the meeting, plus there's also a second citizens comment section latter part of tonight's meeting. Okay, I guess we're ready to start.
Item number 1 is discussion regarding the Woodward Complete Streets Plan. You all saw this a few months ago and made a motion to endorse. We had choice 1, choice 2, and you guys went with a hybrid option, which was recommended to council. Council also recommended that to the WA3. Since that time, it has changed a bit. You have all of the cross sections in your packet, and I did miss the August meeting because I was on the Woodward Complete Streets meeting, so I didn't get to hear the discussion on how it changed, but you will notice that the cross-section from 11-mile road to 14-mile road has changed a bit. There is now a two-way bike lane, and it's hard to tell, but the intent is that it would be at sidewalk grade and be striped or be paved a different texture to delineate bike. And then there would be a curb area so that people that are parking on the service drive would be able to open up their door safely without hurting somebody. And then there would be the service drive through traffic. And then again, that curb that is shown in brick. At the last meeting, a couple weeks ago, the Complete Streets Committee and MDOT, we were all talking about this. There was a motion made to endorse this to the WA3 board, and motion was carried. MDOT, there was some discussion about, you know, the improvements that are shown and how there's, they don't have money to maintain what they have now, so on and so forth. So I'm still working on getting some sort of something in writing because, you know, as I've expressed to you, we have an ordinance that says any property owner has to maintain the sidewalk abutting their property, but it's all that other stuff that's on Woodward that's kind of no man's land at this point. And I would like to, although it's, you know, as we said, as I said in my report, a half a lifetime at least. I think that that's a good start to say who's going to maintain this, and even if it stays looking the way it is, if we have something that says MDOT can't do it or doesn't have to do it, then we can make some moves on the city if the city desires to fill in that gap somehow. Anyway, so I'm still working on that. As I said, you know, this is 27 miles. If there's no money, if there was money, it would still take 20 years. And there's a lot of issues as far as, you know, turnarounds and the corners, all those details still need to be worked out. But this is a vision, and what they are asking is for cities to endorse it. They do have a resolution that they wanted city councils to look at, but if you are in agreement with this, then you could make a motion saying you're in agreement with it and send it on to council for the official City of Berkley endorsement.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Maybe three. No, two, for sure. How, if the bus rapid transit is ever built, what are they going to do with the snow in that area? How are they going to clear the snow?
Plow it.
Huh?
Plow it.
Plow
I mean, it'll
to
be-
where? It's in the middle of the median.
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know.
Oh, nobody knows that.
Well, somebody might, but I haven't asked the question.
All right.
Nobody's asked the question, since this is about complete streets and not about the BRT, because
Yeah,
that
okay.
locally preferred alternative was decided a while ago.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Chairman, they may be forced to scoop it up and haul it away.
That was question number one. And then when I look at the whole thing and I see it's really about snow, I guess my question is, in the winter, what do you do on the sidewalks and the bike lanes become where the snow sits?
I think practically speaking, that is what's going to happen, yes. And then, again, like the city does in the downtown, eventually, once the DPW finishes with the roads, they go back and they do clear that
Yeah.
spot that ends up being all icy and yucky. It takes commitment to keep things shoveled, and it takes money, and I think that's it's a hard thing to decide that it's worth this much money, and that's, you know, something MDOT certainly doesn't have, you know, the financing to do at this point. I think the question is if you want to have something that looks, even if there was a winter version of this, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
An
I would
ideal,
like
an
to see-
ideal winter version of it,
Yeah, I
right?
would
A
like
pretty
to see
one.
an ideal one.
We
just to
did
be
talk
curious.
about that, I guess they decided. Nobody wanted to say, oh yeah, my cross-section can look like winter.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Right. Yeah, they didn't want to deal in.
Right.
Those have been the two puzzling questions I've had. And I had a third one, but I'll defer to other people here for comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrell.
I guess I first have a question. Are they asking us to endorse just our little page of this, or are we looking to endorse the whole shebang?
I would think you should just endorse your little part of it, because I have said in numerous Woodward meetings that I don't think it's appropriate for, I don't know all the particulars about Birmingham or Highland Park or anything, and I would feel very presumptuous saying how it ought to be when I don't know all of the
Right.
issues that are in the various communities. So I would say, I would look at the 11 mile to 14 mile, but this is the whole thing. So you could look at, we tried for consistency as much as possible between the various cross-sections, but it varies widely, so, as far as the available space.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Richardson?
I'm not sure you would know the answer, but if we don't endorse the whole thing and other communities don't endorse the whole thing, they just endorse their pieces of it, does that have any implication for the probability of future funding? Are agencies going to look for unanimity in the Woodward Avenue communities?
You know, I think what you could say in a motion, and I can look, they did have a model resolution, which I haven't gotten to that point because I wanted to talk with you guys first. I think you could certainly say, you know, you're all in favor of Woodward being a complete street, and in particular, you're in favor of this, but you certainly don't want to start telling, you know, other communities what their cross-section ought to look like if, say, you know, there's a problem with, you know, one section in one of the Detroit sections, or Huntington Woods says, no, we don't want this. You don't want to be in a position of telling Huntington Woods what to do, but it's all MDOT right away anyway.
I just have a small question. It's actually about the 8 Mile to Oak Ridge and Oak Ridge to Washington stretch. I can't tell from the drawing, and I didn't pick it up from the notes, which the writing is too small for me, whether those bike lanes in that section are at grade or up on a curb.
The intent is that the bike lane would be part of the sidewalk,
Okay,
essentially.
so it's on a curb.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
You know, if you look closely at the image, you can see people using the crosswalk. That's all at one. Okay, did they raise up the crosswalk there
You know what,
in the 8 Mile to Oak Ridge? I'm just, because it looks to me like they're crossing at like the bikes and the pedestrians are kind of, and the cars are kind of all at the same grade with an elevated lump in between them, if you know what I mean.
I do hear what you're saying. I
just saying technically.
know that, I get that that is what the rendering looks like. What I have been told is that the intent is that it would all be at sidewalk level, because we had a very intensive phone conversation about trying to balance all of these various modes and, you know, making sure we don't set up bicyclists for collisions and pedestrians for collisions. And like I said in my report, how do you balance when it's thousands of vehicles and hundreds of pedestrians and a dozen bikes, and you want to be fair, but you want to be fair? And how do you fit it all together? So the intent is that this would all be at sidewalk level, and there would not be that funky curb where you'd end up with a bunch of garbage collected in the bike lane.
What it looks like to me is that in the kind of frontage road where they've got parking, they've raised the crosswalk through there, but it looks as though it goes down to the street grade once you get past this median. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
Yeah, the 8 Mile to Oak Ridge.
Like perhaps they're trying to slow the cars down on the frontage road.
I would think that the Michigan Department of Transportation would have a serious issue with that. It looks to me like they just didn't model the ramp that's gonna have to exist in order to get up from the curb. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm presuming there'll be some kind of a ramp, right where the two people are walking, on the 8 Mile to Oak Ridge image.
Yeah. Guess that goes back to snow removal.
Yeah.
Other comments?
Question for Ms. Vanson.
Mr.
So
Murray?
you mentioned in your notes that they're looking at some sort of a tax increase proposal on the November 2016 ballot.
That's what's being talked about for the from the Rapid Transit
Okay.
Authority, yes.
So has there been discussion, because, you know, right now we have SMART, we have DDOT, now we have this Regional Transit Authority, of just merging all those into one authority?
My understanding is, yeah, it would be.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
none of this will work unless they do.
Agreed. Yes, and I think that is the intent.
Better be. It better be.
Okay. That's all I had.
Other comments? Mr. Tringari?
I think it's an improvement over what we saw last time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morel?
I will add that I lament the loss of green. I mean, painted bike lanes notwithstanding. There, of course, is a significant reduction in the median green space, which I suppose from a municipal standpoint means nobody has to mow it, or there isn't as much to mow. But at the same time, and knowing full well that the image that we see here of the solid mass of buildings isn't exactly what's going to be, you know, we're applying this over an existing condition that's actually a little different than what they're showing. I still can't help but think that I'm sorry to see
Go.
that go. And of course, seeing the Dream Cruise by bus will be interesting.
Well, I will say there was discussion as well about median, and if you need to fit all of this in, would you rather have the median, or would you rather have larger sidewalks and street trees and so forth? And while we all wanted to have both, the thought was that it was better to have a wider sidewalk and street trees than something that it's nice to look at, but nobody's going to be able to use it.
Yeah, I think what's missing in these images, these little tiny images up in the corner, you know, wherever the buses drop people off, there's going to have to be some hardscape in place of the
sure.
trees and the grass, and
Oh, yeah.
and you know, if they're dropping off at a street corner, you know, the northbound bus will have to was dropping off 50 feet beyond the actual corner, because they got to get the bus to the far side unless they drop them on the opposite side. Well, long story short is I think that still remains to be seen as to how that all turns out. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's, you know, this is all we have left. Where do you want it? Kind of.
Right.
But they've got to have something to drop people off in that.
Oh, absolutely.
median, so.
We'll see in 20 years what happens.
Yeah.
You're optimistic.
I won't be
I
here,
am.
so-
I'm optimistic.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Any other comments?
Well, just to, I almost hate to say it, I haven't changed my view. I believe we should have adopted the initial proposal that we were presented with for Berkley. We could avoid the maintenance issue with respect to the brick median, but more important than that, I don't favor parking in front of buildings on Woodward as a long-term goal or a long-term strategy. I'm just going back on the record with that. We've already made that decision. I realize that. I'm not going to propose we revisit it, but I suppose that a lot of this is it's conceptual at this point anyway, and future planning commissions and councils may change the plan in ways we're not even discussing, so.
Yeah, I think this is a direction.
It's a
Say
vision.
This is, you know, given what we know now, this is what we want to see happen, and depending upon funding and other things, technology, you're right, in 4 years, when if the rapid transit starts and we start actually seeing actual road geometry, things are gonna get, you know, there's gonna be a lot of, you know, they haven't figured out the corners yet, the
Right.
turnarounds, the BRT would necessitate turnarounds being eliminated, not all of them, but substantially fewer. All those things need to be worked out in a lot of meetings.
So what's the desire of the planning commission? Is there a motion?
Are we recommending to endorse?
You're recommending to endorse this
To council?
Yeah.
council?
Even though it's discussion,
Don't all,
Yeah, as
it is a discussion item. Are we allowed to turn it into an action item? By taking a vote?
well, we have to do something, we have to recommend it to council, do we
Yeah, I
not?
wouldn't have known what motion to put on the,
Okay.
we can, yeah, I guess I could have said discussion and consideration, but
Okay.
if you want to wait, we've never had an issue with that when we've talked about
Do
things.
you want to hold off on this?
No, I'm just raising a point of order.
I assume we wanted to move it to council, and I assume we would want to take a vote on it.
I did, I'm sorry that I didn't, but
Okay.
if there's an issue with it, if you want to label it correctly, or, I don't think it's incorrect, but if you want to be quite precise with it, I just didn't want to tell you all, I didn't want to assume you guys were going to.
Would we be recommending endorsement or approval, or what's the best
They
wording
wanted
for that?
endorsement was the
Endorsement.
language they were using. So if you're going to recommend the Woodward Complete Strand, the concept of the Woodward Avenue Complete Streets, and specifically our 11-mile road to 14-mile road cross-section for city council's endorsement, you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I assume that's
Yes.
what you're making.
Yeah.
Let's make a motion that says that.
Yep.
I'd maybe like to modify that motion to
Well,
also
let's first of all
defer
get
to
the
what other.
motion. You making the motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I
He's
didn't say
making the
anything else
motion.
yet, so I'll
Okay.
make a motion to
Mr. Smith is
endorse it to city
making,
council, our section, which is what, 11 to 14,
Yeah.
in concept.
amen, okay. All right. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second. All right, now you want to amend the motion.
Yes, the possible amendment to the motion was to defer to the endorsements of other communities as well for their stretches. I think that might kind of iron out some of the other things that we talked about.
We mentioned that, sure.
Maker of the motion agree with it? Okay,
Okay.
so you got it? You want to read it all back to us?
Are you kidding?
No, you don't want to?
Let's
sound
see. Commissioner Smith, let's see if I can do this.
Make me sound smart.
I'll endeavor to do that. Commissioner Smith made a motion to endorse the Woodward Avenue Complete Streets Study as presented, with specific endorsement for the Berkley Royal Oak section, 11-mile road to 14-mile road.
Get the
The
endorsement of the concept.
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 Yes.
That's a big word.
Streets
Yeah.
Yes.
concept.
Yes.
Well, the complete street study or the 11-mile to 14-mile road concept? Which one's the
The
concept?
11 to 14 mile concept,
Concept.
because we're
Yeah.
not endorsing the entire study.
Right.
It's not as though we're conveying
Right.
site plan
Well,
approval
all
or
right,
something.
you're not endorsing the entire study
I don't
and-
think it's our place to endorse, other
We can
people's.
endorse it.
I agree.
I think that was what Mr. Tangari's.
Right.
I don't know
It's a
on the why
concept.
that's-
It's a
Yeah.
concept.
Well, but
20
I
years
think
in
you
the
agree
future.
that Woodward should be a complete street throughout it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
yeah,
So
I'll-
I think
I'll-
that's
Right.
what you're saying, is that
Yes.
Woodward Avenue should be a complete street in its entirety, and that we are specifically endorsing the 11-mile road to
Our
14-mile
portion.
concept. We would defer the other specific cross-sections
To
to
the other
those
communities.
individual
Yes.
communities.
Yes.
Perfect.
Amen.
That's kind of what I said. For the two of you said. Yeah, we both.
Yeah, I won't even remember what I said. And Commissioner Tangari seconded that.
Yes.
With his wonderful
Okay.
amendment.
Good.
Okay.
Politically
Hey.
astute.
Now, do you want to read it all back to
No,
us?
I don't.
In concept,
All right.
You
Okay.
should play the tape.
Yeah, I think we have a good enough idea.
Okay. All right. Any
Ready?
discussion on it? Motion. Hearing none. Let's take a roll call vote.
Yes. Morel,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Smith,
yes.
Tangari,
Yes.
Shadle,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes,
Barnett.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, if we put that to sleep for a while.
for 20 years.
Leave it for our grandchildren, right?
Okay, moving on to item number 2.
Okay, item number 2, discussion regarding proposed residential form-based code. Fun talking about this a couple weeks ago. I gave you a whole bunch of pretty pictures, well, some prettier than others, just to sort of think about how different things could look, and if there's anything that you think is just awful, then if you all agree it's just awful, then maybe we can find something to have this form-based code be form-based. I think I summarized kind of where we're at as far as, I don't know, how do you want to do this, Mr. Chairman, talking about these items? How do you want to do this? You do have Kathleen from LSL did send this to me Monday.
I went through all of all the stuff that you had difficult times downloading it all. I went through all of this here stuff. We're going to discuss that, or are we just going to?
Well, we can, I mean, and
Are we gonna
Kathleen
discuss-
sent new stuff Monday, so,
She sent us new stuff on Monday.
so it didn't go in your packet, but it's in front of you right now.
It's this, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is what we received tonight?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, your packets are already done.
Two that look like that in Berkeley already.
So this is what she's done thus far. I did send her a copy of my report so that she kind of knew what I was thinking or where we were at this point. So we talked about single-family homes, and there was discussion about side entries and so forth. I did talk to the building official about it. He says, yeah, you could build the houses differently and make it work, but it would be more difficult and more costly to developers. We can require it to be a taller house, but you just need to know that that's gonna not be business as usual, and if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with it. I just
Can I
want
go? I got a question for you.
Okay,
We were discussing this 18-inch
yes,
entry, and there seemed to be great difficulty about the side entry,
yes.
and I'm trying to figure out why there is such great difficulty with
And
side entry.
I'm gonna butcher it again tonight, so I
Because-
will get Dwayne to write it up for you guys and send it to you, because
Well,
I don't
my
understand.
question is,
I just know it is. Go ahead.
let me just
Okay.
finish what I want
Oh,
to say.
I'm sorry, okay.
We've built in the 40s and 50s all kinds of bungalows in this city that are basically 18 inches high. I have a side entry. I step up 6 inches and I walk into the landing on in the side entry, and I go up 2 steps to the kitchen, and,
Yes.
and I don't see the problem with this.
Mr. Chairman?
All of a sudden, it's become a great problem.
I think,
Mr. Burrell.
I think the point that was trying to be made was that carpenters, quite frankly, the framing associated with your mid-level landing is too complicated to make, you know, you can if it was just a flat floor plate with a rectangular opening for a stair, it's much more cost-effective, and so therefore, they don't want to do it. And I think that's, I mean, because I agree with you, every house on the block I grew up on had 3 steps down to a landing and then
Right.
out the door to the back. And-
Well,
got 2.
and again, I think there's also an issue with, when you look at the houses that are being built today, the stairways have gotten wider. They do make wider stairs so that you can actually get furniture up them, which it'd be impossible for me to move a lot of things up in my bungalow, like a larger bed or whatever. And the treads are deeper, so you end up with, the stair takes up more room. And just saying, I'm not saying it's impossible to build any house. I know I've got books of all different kinds of houses. We can require whatever, but I'm letting you know, I hear developers say, and they've got to have bedrooms a certain size, otherwise you can't get loans. And when you start framing stuff out, again, you're looking at, it's probably not as cost effective. Now, we can require whatever, but you just gotta
And-
decide if you have to be intentional about it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And I think their preference is build one floor level, and if there's a stair to get in or out of the house, it's gonna be outside the house.
Right.
rather than in.
Right, they want that transition, and so, if your house is too high, our lots are so narrow, you compromise the driveway if you have to
Right.
put an outdoor
Yeah,
landing. I mean,
I know.
the geometry is pretty obvious.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Martin Smith?
you know, everybody knows by code you need 8 or 10 inches between the soil and the first piece of wood.
Right.
And then your floor framing's another 12 inches, so inherently you're up 18 inches above grade unless it's all masonry.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't avoid it. There's gonna be a stairwell somewhere, whether it's or not steirwell, steps
There's
somewhere,
gonna be
whether
step
it's outside
either
or
inside
inside.
or
Yeah.
inside or
Unless
out.
it's a slab on grade that, you know,
Well, that's a
different.
horse of a different color.
Masonry. So inherently, you have plus or minus 16, 18 inches to start with. I mean, I don't care where it is. So I think it's kind of it's kind of we're going off on a tangent here. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It has to be dealt with one way or another, and it takes up space on the site or inside the house.
So what you're saying, it should be outside. That's what the developers and builders want.
No, I think Dwayne's point was if you're going to have,
You're gonna be
Even when-
18 inches. You're gonna be 18
You're gonna be
inches.
up there anyway.
I don't know, a minimum of 18 inches above sidewalk with stairs. That's what it said.
That's what code says.
Well, that's what's being proposed,
Okay.
so.
I
If
just,
you're,
yeah.
if you're good with it, then you're good with it. The Dwayne was just raising the point that it may be an issue for side entry garage, entrances.
Why does there have to be a side entrance?
There doesn't have to be, but he's just, there are some developers that build them, and if they've got to be up a certain distance, then it might be an issue. If they've got to put the door here and they put the landing inside, they may have to change what they've been building. That's all.
Right.
He was just
Okay.
raising that it's requiring that will not be business as usual, and that's okay. It's just, he wanted you to be intentional about it, not go ahead and do it and then realize when it gets to council at second reading, oh,
Yeah.
we didn't mean to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrell.
I don't see it as being that big a deal. I'm not even
Okay.
sure why we're bothering to
Yeah.
regulate it.
That was my point.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just one vote here, but it just seems like we're arguing
That's fine.
about a crazy subject.
Seems like, seems like
I
the
have
way
no
everything I
problem
see
either.
getting built is built anyway, so.
I don't have a problem with it, other than I brought it up because you guys were wrestling with it on the outside, and then why put it outside when you can put it inside? All right,
okay,
we're
so.
moving on.
All right, so the next thing, if we're going down the line here for single-family homes, she had proposed 20-foot minimum or equal to abutting property, whichever is less. I had proposed 20, right now, we require 25 feet or equal to abutting properties, whichever is more. I had proposed 25 feet. She said, well, try 20 feet, because then you might get bigger backyards. And I thought, well, but we're not requiring a bigger rear yard. We're not shifting everything. We're still saying 35 feet, which means we're just going to get a longer house. Again, if you're okay with it, that's fine. The side yard, we've got a 5 feet. The total of side yards would be 15. But we're getting rid of that requirement for the separation. So it would just be 5 and 10, and you could have two houses be 10 feet apart then. And that might be okay, but
I don't see that here.
you don't see what?
Yeah.
I don't see that language here. Both of these documents say 5 feet total of two sides, 2 yards, 15
But it
feet.
doesn't have the extra layer that houses have to be 15 feet away from each other. We have both right now.
Oh, I see.
They both say it's 15 feet here.
Yeah.
This one says,
So a
it's two
total of two
requirements.
side yards, 15 feet, so 5 and 10. But what if you have two 5s next to each other?
So technically, you could, with this ordinance, you could have houses 10 feet apart.
Yeah,
If,
yeah. I see what
Okay.
you're saying.
okay.
have you had any comment from Fire Marshal on that?
No, I have not sent this
Because
to him.
I'm sure he'll have an opinion. Further tenant.
Yeah, because Mr. Chairman, the residential code is fairly silent on this, but the building code establishes 15 feet as a cutoff for buildings. There's firewall issues and property line issues. 15 feet is a point of dimension that a lot of the opening protectives and all that other mumbo jumbo goes away. Now and I had it last month and I didn't bring it this month, but the residential code doesn't refer to that. So the 15 feet comes from something.
It's kind of a legacy thing. We've had it here for an awfully long time.
Well, it comes from, it's also a code, it's a code item too, in the building code, not
Is
the
it?
residential code, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of stuff drops off at 15 feet distance or separation.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I thought it
so
was
I can
20.
ask, I'll ask the fire marshal and the building official about that
Right.
one.
What-
However,
Let me ask a
the
question about it.
the ZBA is granting all kinds of waivers now, too.
Well, but they're
less than
not,
15.
but they're not happy about that. They've kind of reached their
They
fill.
changing their
Well, there were a number of them, and then there was where it was, nope, we're done. They all can't be unique. We're legislating from the board.
Oh, I
We
didn't,
don't
I
want
wasn't aware of that, that they had a little change of opinion.
Well, it was last October, but yeah,
Last October?
well, October of 2014, yeah.
Oh, I still see things come up. Okay. Maybe they're denying them all. I just don't know.
No, you haven't had nothing that, everything's legal that's going up.
Okay.
It's 15 feet apart. I mean, if it got
Yes.
approved a year ago, then, but we haven't had any cases before the
All right,
board
guess
since
I'm-
October.
I misread something. Okay.
Okay.
So the issue is, it sounds to me like we really need the 15 feet.
Well, I'll check with Dwayne and Pete about that one.
It
So-
is, yeah, my recollection is
Okay.
not in the residential code, but it
Right.
is a number that's very prevalent in the building code.
Building
But that doesn't make it
No.
single-family residential, so,
Okay, so what do you think about the front?
front,
The
Whether
20
you want
feet,
20
or
or
you want
25?
25?
20 feet minimum.
Let's walk around the room and see.
I don't think, what's the footnote on the other one, 20 feet minimum with a footnote?
The current one is 25 feet or equal to a budding property, whichever is greater. So you've at least got to be 25 feet. If everybody else is 27, you got to be 27 or 30 or whatever.
But this is saying whichever is less.
Well,
Correct.
the
This
new one
is, this is
less.
closer, plus it's saying if everybody else is closer, you get to be with
And
them
then if
too.
they also have a porch, that can project another 8 feet in, so they're 12 feet off the sidewalk.
Under, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morel?
so if we were to adopt this as it's written, I'm wondering, there are of course blocks in Berkeley where it's 20 feet. My
Yeah.
original house on Tyler was 20-foot setback.
Yeah.
The house that's in place of it now was 25. You know, when I look at this, I try and imagine, if I tear down a house and I build a new house, basically I gotta put it back about where it was, based on this. And I'm trying to come up with a version of this where I wouldn't have to do that. Because basically, the adjacency requirement, almost all of our property is, we're so built out that there's a house here and a house here, and if you're building a house there, you're gonna have to comply with what's there.
It's there.
So I do think that the 20-foot minimum would apply in so few places. I'm not a big fan of 20 feet. My preference would be 25. But as I sit here thinking about, well, when would I build a house 20 feet back? It would be only if there was a house, the houses on either side of me were already 20 feet back. Now, that does raise the question, if I have one house on one side of me that's at 20 feet and one house on the other side of me that's at 25,
The way this is
is
worded.
the 20 okay, or is the 20?
The way it's worded, you'd do 20.
Okay. And that's what, okay.
But
so-
if you have two 25s, if, your two neighbors are 25 feet, you get to come up 5 feet more.
Right. Well, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, all right, got it.
These are minimums, right?
It's minimum 20.
Minimums.
Right.
Just because everybody else is at 20, I could still be
Budding
25 if I wanted to be.
Yeah, but you're not, but nobody's going to do that.
Uh,
I would really doubt that if we're looking at that.
You know, it always makes me wonder about those crazy houses that were obviously built before we had ordinances where they're 5 feet off the rear property line and they have a 100-foot yard. I mean,
Those
I
are
won't
odd.
sell the populace of the city of Berkeley short that they will find a way, they're gonna do what they want to do. As long as it fits within the ordinance, so.
All right, let's run around the room. What do you recommend, Mr. Martin Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I'm still pondering this. I prefer the 25 feet also, because we do give people relief for open porches already. And I think if we go, and again, it's a number, and I argue these professionally every day of the week. But 20 minus 8, he said, that's only 12 feet from the property line. And your neighbors have as much right to the view as the street as you do.
Right.
And I think that's what bothers me about this, where I understand, bring them closer. In some of the other sections, we are bringing them closer. We bring people closer. But there's a lot of existing housing stock that is, most of it's at 25 feet in this town.
Right,
And I'd like to keep that number,
okay.
in my opinion.
Mr. Richardson?
Well, I think Mr. Smith is persuasive, but I keep coming back to the idea of greater flexibility in our code. 5 feet, I suppose is not that much. Certainly on my block, we have variances between frontages that are that much. And it doesn't seem to be particularly a burdensome thing or an unsightly thing. I think I'm not an expert on housing markets or architectural trends.
Nobody is.
But I think you want to provide flexibility for different ideas in housing. If you're going to attract the kinds of people that we want to live in Berkeley and the kind of new construction we want to encourage here. And I guess I don't see the 5 feet as a drastic departure from
you're going-
what we have. I would go with this recommendation.
I think I'm leaning towards Commissioner Smith's 25.
Whatever he said.
I think that's right.
Considering that this is for single-family residential, the only time this is gonna really come into play is when somebody buys a property, tears down the house and builds new. I'd keep it at 25.
Mr. Morel?
You know, reading this over and drawing a little sketch showing a house at 25 feet and a house at 25 feet, by this ordinance, I could build a house in between them at 20, because it's whatever is less. And some of you weren't on the board when we had this discussion over
Well, that's.
why can't we build into the front yard? And as a board, we looked at right-of-ways all around the city. And I can show you the right-of-way. If you go down Gardner between Edwards and Morrison, that whole block was built out almost without any requirements. And it goes in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And you go to some other neighborhoods where it's all the same, and it's a much different feel, and in my opinion, it's a much better feel. So I guess I not only have a problem with the 20 feet, I have a problem with it being a minimum, and I think it actually should be maximum. Because I think the implication is, for the protection of the neighbors, that if my house is set back 25 feet, I want their house set back 25 feet. If they want to go back 30, I don't have a problem with that. But they got to be at least as far back as mine. That's my opinion.
I agree with that.
Ms. Shado?
Yes, I say 25 feet or whatever the abutting property is, whichever is greater, which is, I
okay.
believe, the current.
It is current, yep.
Mr. Tengary?
My preference would be for 25 feet or equal to abutting, whichever is less, because you do have some neighborhoods where there are basically a 20-foot setback already, so that whichever is less gives the flexibility to match what's existing in those neighborhoods. Personally, I would be in favor of also making 25 feet the max, and just having everything kind of in a row. But I don't think I've heard any other support for that. But yeah, I think 25 feet or equal to abutting property, whichever is less, is the standard that I would go with.
25.
25 feet minimum.
Yep.
Or equal to abutting property, whichever is less.
Yep.
That's what Mr.
Yes.
Tangary's saying. Because you could have a row of houses at 20 feet.
Right.
And a new one comes in, you're not gonna force them
To go
to
25.
go
Yeah,
to
exactly.
25.
Right.
So-
And
Exactly.
I agree.
I agree.
We agree.
Okay.
We had one.
And that allows all these oddball locations to maintain their oddballness,
Whatever they want to do.
if that's a word.
Without being non-conforming, I suppose. Without being non-conforming. I mean, there's some, you look at,
Oh, there's some.
particularly where porches have been built in, and now the house is now, 6
Absorb the
feet
porch.
further out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Next.
One line.
All right. We're gonna.
One down.
One
All
down.
right, I'm assuming we don't have issues with anything, and I'll deal with the side yards, I will ask about that. And the floor finish, we've beaten that, 18 inches, okay. Architectural design, a minimum window door area. Again, just looking at what's being built, went to a Mark Adler facade, not saying that that's the holy grail or anything, but it was handy. We get about 13.9% windows for the primary facade. One side is 4.8, the other one was 8.5. I didn't look at, the gable area, because I was just looking at the 2 stories, not anything that was the half that was above it.
20%'s a lot of window for a residence.
And per ordinance, we don't count doors as
know.
windows, so I just was counting windows.
I mean, look at any of these. I just grabbed one without
I did not
shutters.
measure those, so.
No,
Okay.
but this glass opening is not 20% of these facades. It's very difficult to get 20% in a traditional residential look.
Okay, so do
And
we?
you've just represented that in an example of 13 or 14, whatever it was.
So, we could do 13% for the primary, or we could up it to 14 if you want. And then I don't know if we've got, I know people don't like a wall of vinyl siding on the side, but they also don't like the neighbor looking at them either, so I don't know how to resolve that. That's-
Curtains.
Curtains are, you
Yeah.
could peek through them
Yes,
though.
I-
You could peek.
Oh, God, I hate that.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
hate that.
along the lines of that topic, what if we were to require habitable rooms to have that have exterior walls on 2 sides, to have windows on both walls? Because, to me, if I have a room, if I'm worried about my neighbors, I mean, I grew up, the 15-foot rule was all the way across
Yeah,
my whole neighborhood, and yeah, we just put up shades.
exactly.
And I do think that, you can go over to Sunny Knoll on the east side of the Berkley High School parking lot, and if you look across the street, on either side of the street, you can see a house that addresses its corner perfectly by having windows and facade treatment on both sides, and you can see the house across the street that looks like it's been cut on the Play-Doh Fun Factory, where it's just like wham, and they set it up, and yeah, there was a bathroom, so we had to have a little window, and apparently they were worried about Indians attacking from the south. And, I don't know, it's a strange phenomenon, but it's true. They're
Yes,
like that.
I know that.
And so, if you go back to Christopher Alexander in pattern language, one of the things they talk about was the best rooms are rooms that have light on
Got
2
both
sides.
Yep.
Yes.
On 2
Yes.
sides, not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if,
And
number
why
one, I
is
think we
that?
get better rooms out of it, and we get better elevation.
Why is that? 2 sides, windows and 2 sides, ventilation.
Well,
Ventilation.
there's lots of reasons. Natural light.
Yeah.
The
Natural light and
light.
Natural
ventilation.
light and ventilation.
Every room in my house that's on a corner has windows on both sides, but it was built in 1929.
Right, and unfortunately, mine
I
does
like
not,
it.
and I regret it, I look for ways, is there, I often wondered, can I put a window, is there a way I could squeeze a window in here? I look at that as being a way, from a form-based standpoint, that's kind of like what I would like to see, that we would encourage,
Windows.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
agree.
As opposed to
yeah.
I agree.
percentages.
I agree.
what's that?
As opposed to percentages.
Yeah.
As opposed to percentages, and I think we can give a minimum size. In order to qualify as a window, it's gotta be at least so big. Yeah, it can't be a glass block with a frame around it, I mean, we don't want that.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Puff?
before HVAC and all that, you opened your windows for
Yeah.
the cross ventilation. And there's some new construction that is doing the chimney where you want to open your windows and you've got that lift going up the stairway. So there's a breeze. And that's one of the reasons why the wreck of a house that I pay the mortgage on, I fell in love with within 90 seconds was the lighting and the breeze that you get through that place is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I hate seeing those blank. And if I lived next to that,
I would, yeah.
I would be really upset.
I agree. Okay.
So,
I like that idea.
windows have to, rooms on corners, windows on both sides. We don't know which percentage yet. For the primary facade, do we want to, if 13.9 is kind of the going, do we want to go 14 and sneeze on it a little bit, or do we want to do 13?
I like windows. 14.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing
My
is 14.
experience with, Mr. Chair, my experience with
Everybody's-
percentages is that's what you get.
What, 13 or 14?
Well, if you tell someone a minimum of 13%, they're gonna give you 13% window with
I
no
think it-
imagination. It's,
Then go 15.
Go 20.
Wanna go 13?
20's a lot of
20's hard.
glass.
It is a lot.
20's a lot.
20 is a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think 20's
We want
a lot.
14?
Let's go 13.
13?
Sounds like a really well-considered, no,
That was
13.9
a
is really
scientific
great.
analysis.
13.9.
We did math to figure that out.
Mr. Chair,
baby.
Yes, Ms. Shado.
I believe I am much more comfortable with percentages than I am requiring windows be put on two sides of a room that's in the corner of a house. I have a lot of hesitancy about that. I think
Well, we
that,
could do both.
You could do,
We could do both.
I have hesitancy requiring a window to be put on the two sides where the room is in the corner.
Oh,
I think
Well,
that
then-
limits,
have-
I think that limits things as far as any kind of reconstruction. I think that could limit creativity. I think now you limit, you had just mentioned, in your home, you can't even put a window if you wanted to. Why is that? There's a reason for that. There's an architectural reason, I suspect, for that.
Well,
So
there-
I would be hesitant to require that, yet I believe that we can ideally achieve a similar effect with a percentage.
Mr. Chairman, my purpose for doing that is because I'm trying to encourage people to put windows on the sides of their house.
Yeah.
Now, we could, use like a dual percentage here and say you have to have 13% on your primary and 22% for the overall skin, which is going to say, okay, put them anywhere you want, but you got to have at least this many. And I'm reluctant to do that. I think you're going to make it. I mean, quite frankly, anybody who's working out of a plan book is going to have a problem with this ordinance anyway, when it comes right down to it, because Mark Adler is going to have to find plans that meet these requirements. He can't just use the plan he used to build his last house in Berkeley, because we're going to require things that aren't going to be in that plan. And so, I'm a big believer in possibilities, and when I see windows, I believe windows on two sides is the way to go. I think too many people get all hung up on energy requirements, and they put in, little arrow loops and things like that, and say, thinking that this is going to be great. And if you remember, in the '60s, there was that penchant for windows that were like with a 5-foot sill, so you had to have. You can see a lot of houses, particularly in the suburbs that were built up at that time. We were already pretty built out, but there was that sort of pillbox kind of thing, which now,
Right.
thankfully, the residential code has eliminated. You no longer can do that. I believe from a public safety standpoint, particularly on the upper level, having more windows is actually probably better than less. Quite frankly, I appreciate the idea that this is somewhat of a mandate when we say this thing, but I think it's a good idea. I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up. How silly of me. Sorry, I just talked for 2 minutes for nothing.
I agree with you,
I
Mr.
agree
Morrell.
with them too.
I agree with Mr. Morrell. Mr. Tangeri, you want to weigh in on this?
I think that if we're going to do a form code, we might as well be bold with it and go with it and try to make sure that we're getting window coverage on every side of the building. I think the way this is written, 10% on secondary facades, the way I read that is that each of the secondary facades has to be 10%
That's how I would read
window. So I think
Probably
it's
probably
somewhat
should
of-
squeeze the word "each" in there somewhere.
yeah, I think it somewhat accomplishes that to begin with, but
Yeah.
But to your point of, each level having some windows on it, I do think that the corner window, provided that we exempt bathrooms perhaps, if you're gonna have the,
I don't think they'd be
Kitchens, I mean,
putting
how do you,
bathrooms in
I have a bathroom on a corner, so
yeah.
No.
it kinda, if you got the bathtub there, you probably don't want a window. But,
Have you ever seen a window in a closet?
I have,
Yes.
I have actually,
It makes
yes.
for a really nice closet.
Yep.
I have
Yes,
one.
it
I've
does.
seen that.
It's,
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing.
No, it isn't.
Kind of a walk-in closet, it lets air, light into it.
Yeah.
But,
There you go, I'm fine with
I
that.
have no problem with what he's proposing.
During the day. Yeah, I'll send them.
Okay. Did we beat this to death?
Yep.
Amy's holding her.
Well, we know we want, I think most of you want you want windows on both sides with rooms that have corners. I'm hearing a majority of you want that. I haven't heard whether we want, in addition to that, we want a percentage for the two sides. I didn't even count the back of the house, but the two sides, the ones that would be visible from the street. If we total up, again, using the Mark Adler formula, we've got about 13%, 13.5%, no, I can add, 13.3%. Do you want to say a total of 15 for the other two, and they get to pick, or do you just want to go with, every room on a corner needs to have windows on two sides?
Mr. Chair, I just have to say, I think it's ludicrous. I don't see it. You have a mud room that is as small as can be, and you're gonna require 2 windows in the mud room because it's in the corner? I don't see it. I have a hard time with any design that anybody wants to come in that fits in our community requiring every room, regardless of what it is, it's in the corner of the house to have a window on each side. I think there are definitely exceptions to the rule, and we're down a slippery slope. That's my opinion.
My original statement was for habitable rooms, so in the example, a mudroom would not apply. I'm looking at bedrooms, the kitchen, living rooms, an office. Habitable is defined by the building code.
Can we use habitable? Habitable?
I'll ask Dwayne. I can see if that would
That
make sense
excludes
from a,
That takes the
Enforcement
bathroom,
standpoint.
mudrooms and closets and anything else out.
Foyers, things like that.
Foyers.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Martin Smith?
Ms. Shadle has a point, by saying we need, I took my glasses off, 10%, 8%, 5% on each of the side elevations or side facades precludes the fact that you're going to have a window in most or several of the rooms. That, are they corner rooms, are they interior rooms? You're going to have a lot of glass on every facade. And I think she has a point by mandating 2 in a room. I like 2 windows in corner rooms. Our house has them. Every room that does have them is a much more comfortable room than the 1 or 2 that don't.
Right.
But the fact that we say you must put X% on each of the side elevations precludes the fact that that's going to happen. Instead of telling them, it's got to be here, got to be here. We want glass. You decide where you want to put it, but you do need to have a substantial amount of glass. She has a point. What that percentage is, I don't know. Again, 10%, is that what it says, 10%?
10% right now.
Is that each side?
It
On
needs
secondary
a-
facades,
needs an
plural, that's
H in
each side.
there.
That's a lot of glass.
yeah.
10%'s a whole lot of glass.
I could see, just looking at again, what we're seeing, we've got 4.8 is very sparse, 8.8, 8.5 looked okay. If we wanted to say, if you wanted to combine the two and let them figure out how they're gonna split the 2 sides, again, I don't know if we care about the back. I didn't measure the back.
Backs are important.
If we just care about, the 2 sides, then you could say, total of 15% for the
Pick a
other
number,
2
12,
sides.
15% on the 2 facades, of the
Total.
facades, total of the 2 facades.
Not
Yeah.
to be less than 6 on any one side.
Well, but
Yeah, I think there does need to be a minimum for each
Oh, okay. All
side because Yeah, then you do wind
Yeah.
up with the.
But see, you may
2%
have a
on one
lot,
side
we
or
have a
something.
situation in our neighborhood where the house is on 6 feet or 5 feet from the property line, a 100-foot lot. Well, there's no windows on that side because it's the garage. But the other side could be all window, because they have 25, 30 feet.
Yeah.
I know this site very well,
With
because
windows in a garage.
next door to me. Huh?
What's wrong with windows in a garage?
Nothing, nothing. But the point is, there's a situation where there's a garage, a breezeway, in the house. The breezeway and the garage eat up a lot of that facade, so you may not have X amount of windows on that facade.
Right.
Plus, in this case, the kitchen cabinets in the kitchen happen to be on that wall. So there's just not a lot of opportunity for glass. But the other side, boom, you could have all kinds of glass. So the idea of saying a minimum percentage of the, sum total of the two sides, to me, makes a lot of sense without dictating where they have to be.
I could live with that. I mean,
What Eric says is true, and I agree. A room with 2 windows is a much better room, on opposite walls.
my
But
concern was really more about the exterior. Again, from a form-based
Right.
standpoint, I'm trying to figure out ways to get people to put windows on the sides of their houses, as opposed to
Right,
having
that's
rooms
my
with light on 2 sides.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree that if we can work out a percentage that we're all happy with and a way of presenting it that doesn't, cause a problem, I'm not against that.
Yeah, okay.
I only brought it up as an option because it was something that you could write down and make into a rule. It's a,
Without a rule that's this thick.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, well, and it doesn't mean the guy's gotta get out his calculator to figure out whether he's
Right.
meeting the code or not.
Okay,
Okay,
you got that?
I do. All right, I think we're all good with the rest of,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
noticed the
Family?
building
What?
materials disappeared. That's fine.
you guys didn't want it
I know,
for single
that's fine.
family.
I'm agreeing.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right,
You
Mr.
started
Morrell?
to talk.
I have one thing.
Laurel? Go
I
ahead.
have an issue with porches that are 3 feet, 6 inches deep.
Yes, I do too. They're not functional.
They're sort of a porch, they're a porch kind of only in the, the figurative sense. They're really
It's like
not.
a set.
It's a big step.
It's not an
Yes.
actual, yeah, I
And
agree.
I think if we're gonna have 8-foot maximum, we should have 6-foot minimum. Or the
agree with that.
15-foot rule.
I
'Cause,
would agree.
I agree.
again, I've always known that a functional porch is at least 6 feet deep.
Yep, I would agree
Yeah,
with
a functional porch is 6 feet deep. It could be deeper, but it can't be shallower.
you. Right,
I agree.
Totally agreed.
Becomes a sidewalk porch.
yeah.
What's that?
A sidewalk porch is 3 feet deep. You can't do anything but walk.
Bas relief
Right, well,
porch.
right,
can
it's,
plant
it's,
them.
it's a stoop then.
Yeah. Be along. There are some, there are some houses in Berkeley that have wraparound porches, and other than the entry, both sides, it's a decorative porch. It's 2
Right.
to 3
Oh.
feet deep.
I,
And,
yeah.
I agree, 6 to 8 feet.
Well, it's there because the elevation looks so good with it. But we can't afford to build it 6 feet deep, so, good heavens. Let me ask you this, should porches be covered?
Front porches should be covered,
I would agree.
because they become decks when they're not covered.
Well, they become, this is, again, I'm a big believer in transition space, and I like halfway in and halfway out. That's the one thing I miss about our current home, is our previous home had a huge covered porch that was open on 3 sides, and you could sit out there, and when it rained,
An
it was cool.
uncovered porch to me is a patio, even though it's elevated. I'm just, in my opinion.
So,
Dip-
Mr. Chair, what's the difference between a porch and a stoop?
A stoop is a 3 or 4 by 4 spot that goes up the 3 steps to, the 18 inches that all the houses in Berkeley are built to, so you can get to the front door.
Yeah.
But it's a small,
It's a landing,
just enough to
essentially.
stand there and open the door.
Well,
right.
And some have roofs on them, some don't. It's what we call, that'd be my definition of a stoop.
It's a
Right, and you would
brownstone
expect a
entrance.
secondary entrance, like the side of the rear door could have a stoop, and that would be fine. What we're saying is that we want a porch on the front.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna need to define the minimum size of a porch. We got the 6 feet, but what about the other dimension?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm a little confused. Are we recommending that the form-based code now require a porch on every new single-family home? Is that what
No.
we're requiring?
No, porch or stoop.
no.
Well, that's
When
not
you
what I'm
put up
hearing,
a,
that's why I'm
when
asking
you
for
build
that.
a porch,
Okay,
is my understanding of this.
I would be in
Yes.
support of
When
that.
you would agree. I'm
Okay.
not saying you have to have a porch.
Okay, all right.
It's not a window box porch, it's a real porch.
Right.
Mr.
It can't
Chair,
be this-
I'm,
Mr. Richardson?
I'm going to quibble with the 6-foot minimum recommendation
No.
based on personal experience.
She said no.
I have a porch, not a stoop. It is not 6 feet deep, but it is quite a functional porch. It's at least 12 feet in width. It's a lengthy porch. It's not a terribly, it's not as shallow as the minimum we have here, granted. So maybe we should, maybe we should
We'll
widen
discuss
it.
I mean, it's,
But I don't think 6 feet is necessary to have a genuine porch based on my own experience with it. Maybe 5.
If you're trying to negotiate and turn a wheelchair or a walker or whatever, as our citizens age, you need 6 feet at least to turn that thing. And you don't need to have a porch on every building, and yes, a porch should be covered. But it does need to be deep enough so you can get somebody turned around and in when you need to.
Well, I'm concerned also about discouraging people from building porches at all. If we're too elaborate with our requirements, maybe they'll just forego porches, and I don't think we want that.
Mr. Smith, were you going to say something?
Well, I was gonna say, if we say we'd like a porch, if you're gonna build a porch, build it 6 feet minimum, someone says, well, I'm only gonna build a 4-foot porch, so therefore I'm not gonna build one. You really think someone's gonna? I mean, it doesn't cost much more to build a 6-foot porch than a 4-foot or a 5-foot.
No,
I mean,
it
it
doesn't.
just
The
doesn't,
other thing,
And-
the extra depth gives you is if you do have furniture on your porch.
you can get around it.
You can get around it.
Get around it safely. It's a safety
Right.
issue too.
So I guess I'm guessing the flavor of this is, should you want to build a porch, make it a real porch. Have a roof, have some depth to it. We didn't talk about
we're
length.
gonna need a definition of real porch, but I know what you mean. Well, you're exactly right.
Right. Make it, if you want a porch, make it a porch. Don't
the
make it a
thing-
deck. Don't make it 3 feet wide.
And the thing about depth and 6 feet versus less than 6 feet is whether or not there's a railing. Because as soon as you add a railing, 5 feet is not enough.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that zone of, you know,
Well, you're going to have to put a railing because it's going to be 18 inches above.
no, you don't need a railing till you're 30 inches above.
Right, I
30.
thought it was 24.
It's 18.
I thought it was 18.
It's 18.
Is it 18?
Is it 18 now?
It's 18.
I don't think
Residential
so.
code or? Must be,
I don't
all right.
think so.
I
Need a guard at 30.
I don't know enough, I don't,
I think a guard's at 30.
what's that?
A guard is 30.
30.
Okay. Because I'm used to commercial code. Commercial code, it's 30, and below that, you need nothing. Unless
That's why
it's-
you build planters up around your porch, so the difference between the porch and the planter is 17 inches if
Well-
you don't want a railing.
Unless it's an elevated porch. If it's a stoop and an elevator, you gotta put it in
Okay,
a railing.
we're-
I digress.
Okay, have we complicated that whole mess for you?
No, I'm good with that. Okay. All right,
Sure you are.
Moving right along.
Moving along.
whether I'll remember it on Monday or not,
Will I
let's see.
remember this discussion?
All right, so duplexes. You guys have a bunch of pictures of duplexes and townhomes, even though I Googled duplexes, this is what I got.
Chairman,
Yes.
I'm gonna
Mr.
pass these around. We did a project, and I can't say where it is, but we did a bunch of images we found. None of them are ours, but off of the intraweb of townhomes and things like that. So as a supplement to what you gave, this is a board we made for a client. And there are drawings, there's photos, there's old brownstone, there's new, some are good, some are not so good, some are curved. But it's just another pile of images to look at.
Good heavens.
So I don't know how you want to do this, if you want to,
Here's another one for short. I have one.
I think it is important for this building type.
empty sheet.
I think this needs to be our,
Got some extras here. Oh, one more. Yep.
this needs to be the one that is the most conservative, that that you get exactly the kind of design you want. I appreciate, we like to have wildflowers and folks be able to express themselves with their single-family home, and if you have apartments, that's really cool, but I think
this is
duplexes, triplexes, the fact that we're looking at, allowing them within single-family districts, it needs to be what you want to see, not, oh, we didn't think about
The
that.
problem with this is it's too
So I
neat
think this
front.
needs to be the most form-based of everything. So that's why I pulled these out, and if there's anything that struck any of you that you said, oh yeah, not that, or oh yeah, absolutely, I guess I'm hoping that maybe there's a pattern to that, and we can use it to dictate the code a bit.
I gather that these two black and white ones are duplex examples. They're kind of
Oh,
pixelated.
the blurry, yeah.
Those
I
are all
think
the
they-
Sears catalog,
yeah.
are they
Yeah, these
not?
are Sears
Yeah, if you
catalog.
look at the
Yeah,
floor
that's what it
plan,
looks
you can
like to
see
me,
that
yeah.
they're
The Lakeland
duplexes.
Okay.
and the Tremens.
They look
Yeah, I mean,
much
they're very
better.
nice as duplexes go. They're
Even blurry, they're nice
Well-
houses.
They are pretty.
The one thing I think I see right away is that because these are the duplexes, right?
Mhm.
Because some of these look like they're townhomes.
I Googled duplex, and
Because the townhomes, not to move ahead to the next type, but the townhomes, majority of your window is gonna be on your front facade.
oh, well, yeah, I'm not even looking at windows. I'm looking at building material, roof pitch. If there's something that, yeah, we want that, or no, we don't want that. I think I'm looking at that initially. And then I think a lot of as far as the amount of windows, we're gonna look at it emulating the single family, or a duplex, or a triplex. That's what I see, because if that's what we want, if that's the gold standard, then we want a duplex or a triplex to do the same thing. But I think material-wise and roof pitch-wise, and if it was all good, the whole stack was good, then we'll move on. But if there was something that was
No,
just heinous, then please tell me.
4, then I threw away.
One of the things that stands out
Do these two on the same
is
floor?
that this one that we got from Marty,
I saved that one.
there isn't a
Yeah,
garage
really
door
not.
anywhere,
I don't like them if they're.
and that's
I don't like that.
what's
Yeah,
appealing.
No, that's obviously was.
Renovated.
Alleys.
yeah.
Yeah,
go- yeah.
alleys are
Front-facing
wonderful.
garage doors
Agreed.
are not
Alleys
desirable.
are great in some areas.
Well, we're talking about Berkeley, so yeah, alleys are great.
So what do you want us to do?
Were there any designs, does anybody want to offer up any of the ones that I had submitted that you thought you hated if it was a duplex next to you? That you'd say, oh my gosh, what did we
Sure
do?
what these are.
I hate that one.
Well. Sure what these are. I don't know.
I love that one.
I only see a couple that I would think of as duplexes. This and these two black and white ones.
These two.
Like these ones right here.
I think these two are most unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think this one with the two air conditioners on the front facade, and it's ill proportioned and
The windows aren't tall enough.
it lacks articulation. And this one, although I can see that these little pillars on both sides are actually part of it, one of the things, and again, Commissioner Tangari brought it up, was that having some asymmetry in these facades is really what sets them off. When you look at some of the other ones, that were in here where there are, and a lot of these are kind of townhome-ish, really. Or, you know,
I would
when you
agree.
have something
Yeah,
like
that's
this
what
where
I
there's
got.
lots of,
Yeah.
where there's some articulation to the units. And even these are actually pretty similar in facade, but they've managed to put some ins and outs in it. And they've changed the color, and I think that
so, yeah.
asymmetry is actually pretty important. Now, I'm not a big fan of this, but I suppose there's a place for it.
Duplexes.
The place might be Los Angeles.
And this one's great, but I really hate this sidewall, but we've already been over that 6 times. This one looks like a concentration camp to me.
Project.
This is okay in an Elfress Alley kind of way, and this one looks like a fire station. But again, that's just me. You wanted an opinion there. I'm done. This is, you know what, there's a
In
place for this.
There's a place for it.
Not
Place for that.
Yes, there is.
Somewhere else.
Again, we're looking at within the single-family neighborhoods.
And I think it's important with form-based codes, folks, that we are allowed to structure these to have things that we don't want. Yeah. I'm all for versatility, but we can't just have nothing, because then we'll get anything.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want.
Yeah, I think as far as row houses and things are concerned, these are the two that caught my eye the most. One on the bottom, I think, is that Portobello Road in London?
I don't know.
It looks very, I think that actually is where that is.
I think they copied it.
Yeah, and then this other one, I mean, they clearly had, there's clear differentiation between the units. And I think, and it doesn't have this, you know, obviously this and this are different, but the cookie cutter stamp going down just has this very institutional feel.
Yeah. Well, that was a nice way to put it.
So this variation among facades for that many consecutive facades, I think is very, very important. And the variation in roof pitches, you have a little bit of, you know, front-facing peak and a little bit of front-facing slope. That really breaks it up and it makes it feel good. And it's not necessarily every other one either. You know, they've kind of got 2 front-facing slopes with dormers, and then, you know, they're bookended by the front-facing peaks. And to me, that just looks organic. It looks right. And you know, the same with this one's just nicely detailed. You know, they've got the cornice lines with the differentiated color and materials, and I mean, you can't really ask for much more than that, really. It's just nicely articulated. That said, these 2 Sears catalog duplexes, I mean, they look like single-family homes, fairly large single-family homes.
They're very well.
They are
Yeah,
nice.
I would accept these in any of our neighborhoods in a heartbeat. They look good.
Quite craftsman-y.
They are. They're very they're very craftsman, a little mission maybe, and they're just
If only we
just
could make
look
that a
good.
code.
They give the impression of a single mass without saying unit A, unit B.
Yeah,
Even
they
though
do.
you're gonna, you know, in closer inspection, you walk up to that porch, you're gonna see there's 2 doors and there's gonna be 2 mailboxes.
Right.
It's not unit A, unit B. And I think that's why they're successful.
Yes, exactly.
I'm really not a big fan of 3 and 12 pitch roofs. I'm not prepared to prohibit them, but I'll say right now that I realize that the code allows them and that they're really popular because it's the most economical pitch you can go to a truss company and get.
Well, what pitch do you want?
If I were the king of the world, I would require that gables that face the main frontage were at least 6 and 12. And if you want a 312, you gotta turn it 90 degrees.
Really?
Yep. Only because I don't want to necessarily preclude them. Because I do think that they're economical, but I find that if you were to look at all we have here, at those that have gables, are any of those 3 and 12? And I think, and as a building scientist, I think 3 and 12 is marginal from a roofing standpoint. You're barely making it for a shingle roof, keeping in mind that shingle roofs are water managed, they are not waterproof.
Yeah.
I deal with it every day. If only this had been steeper.
Does anybody have an objection to that?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, I would just comment that I think I agree. I think I saw the two that you held up initially. I agree with your negative assessment of those. And I guess generally speaking, Amy, I would lean toward those designs which feature more glass on the front.
Yeah, we'll do.
As opposed to
Wow,
to
there's
less.
a concept. Bigger the facade, the more glass you need.
Yeah.
You're thinking architecture now, my friend.
Only took about 3 years.
Marty Smith is kind of rubbing off.
Well, that's why I sit next to him.
It dribbles out.
Well, it dribbles in, too.
In addition, I had noted these, and you guys can poo-poo them. I think the ones that were pleasing to my eye, if they had a taller first-story window, so the first
Yeah.
floor
Yep.
was differentiated. It didn't look bedroomy. It looked like it was a living room.
Agreed.
I have opinions about palladium windows, but I get it. That was one of my other issues, because I think it's going to look too trendy. It's not going to hold up as well, but they're pretty. Windows on the front of the building, I think should be portrait rectangle. It has to have that proportion. It can't be square. It's another thing that my eye went to. And that the shutter width needs to total at least 2/3 of the window that it flanks.
Shutter with what?
If you have shutters, the total shutter width has to be 2/3 the width of the window.
So these don't look functional to you?
Look awful. Just
They were
awful.
drawn on with a magic marker.
They do look like that. They're just so anemic.
Well, you know, there are those who will say that the shutter, if you're gonna put a shutter on a house,
These are
it
perfect.
should be equal.
I know that there are folks that say that. I don't
yeah.
think, when I looked at the ones that I liked, I didn't think that that was necessary. It did not look anemic to me, and I don't think they actually need to be functional for,
You know what?
defense purposes.
In the
that-
prefabricated vinyl shutter industry, I wonder what the widths are, though. I know, because I know what you're saying, and I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. I'm just not as sure how achievable it is if they don't happen to make, I mean, here we're
Just
gonna
don't design
require.
with shutters. I'm not saying you have to have shutters, but if you're going to have
Like the
it, then
porch, if you want to do it.
Yeah, that's
do it right.
On shutters.
So I'm not saying that,
not gonna
when I looked at all of these, that was when, because you look at it and you're like, that's bad, that's good, well, okay, why? And you start looking at what it is about it that irks you.
What about eyebrows? Do we like eyebrows?
Over those windows on the left.
All these windows have eyebrows. Many of, I mean, part of the
Oh,
negative
yeah.
thing of this one is that they're just punched holes.
Yeah, yeah. Framing around the windows, especially on a front facade, is important.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it
good.
gives the windows presence beyond their glass surface.
So is
No.
that the
Pull
technical
that
term,
one.
eyebrow?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
shall have eyebrows?
I think you need to articulate the head and sill in some form.
Yes. And if you want to articulate all the way around, that's even better, but
This one's my favorite.
Which one?
You were asking a question, which one?
I think those are real. I was looking at that. I think
Amy wants to know.
these are real shutters.
What?
those are real, yeah.
These are real.
He asked you which one.
This,
These are
that
real.
one's real
That looks
shutters.
like Philadelphia or something. It's
Philadelphia or
This one's
Boston.
my favorite.
It's gorgeous, but,
yeah.
And look how plain it is. It's absolutely
Yeah.
plain.
yeah, everything's
that
the
one.
same, but.
You know what? There's a proportional,
Use that
look at how the windows get smaller as they go up
Yep.
Yeah.
on this one. And,
Well, that's why it works. The eye, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
I mean, these are 4 stories. I mean, if you count the gable on the
Yeah.
roof, I mean, that's pretty big.
Probably a 312 pitch, too.
Yeah. I got that one.
No, that's more. That's
I know,
probably.
I'm joking.
But it's turned, so it would be okay.
Yes.
Well, you know what? At the time, colonial times, they were getting so much snow that 312 would have been a nightmare, particularly because they didn't have stuff like tar paper. You know, they didn't have 15-pound felts to stick under the shingles. They just put on the shingles, and you know, steeper was better.
Ivy looks good too. We require ivy growing up beside.
Okay, so,
Okay, are we anywhere?
let's see, this is what I've gotten so far. For duplexes and triplexes, triplexes, we want gables that face the street to have to be a 612. If not, if you want a
612,
minimum,
yeah.
minimum.
612.
If,
And that's even shallow.
if less than that's desired, it needs to turn. We want asymmetry. We kind of got into townhouses that we want differentiation, but I'm not there yet.
The garage is 10.
Windows, articulate we want eyebrows, heads and sills articulated. Taller first-story window.
Yep.
And do we want anything else for duplexes, triplexes? Any materials that are no?
Not a big T111 fan.
Yeah, the T111 is the.
T111,
Well,
Yeah.
that's on everything, I think.
Well, I think you could make that a blanket, use T111.
Okay.
I mean,
That's a
for
no-no.
the duplexes and triplexes, it would be like corrugated metals and things.
What's that, sorry?
Corrugated metal.
metals for duplexes and triplexes. everyone in
Again,
the
this
neighborhood.
is, you're not gonna see these, and
Do this.
you want it next door to you. Do you want it next door to you in a
If it's-
single-family
If it's more
home?
than 6 feet from my fence.
It's a single-family home. You're embedded in a neighborhood, single-family home, duplex, triplex.
That's wood, I think.
These are
There-
not on
there'd
the
be a
end
lot of
caps?
phone calls.
No, these are ones that could be,
I think if it's proportionate.
it might be
right,
on a
minus the
corner,
garages,
but this isn't a townhouse. This is something
I
that could be,
understand.
all right.
Minus the garages, I could see this. I mean, we have it down
yeah.
the street here.
I think
But
that's
it's a
torches
The
and pitchforks.
Rubik's Cube.
But we asked for plan count approval or review for something like that.
You have a flat roof, you go to the plan commission. I think that's what it says in here.
Okay,
Yeah, it
flat
does say that.
roof.
Right.
Okay, any materials that would require?
These.
That would
this
require
would
it to
fit
come to
into
planning commission?
Berkeley.
Yeah.
So would that. And these,
Do you want to look at
this would drive
these oddball materials
phones
like
crazy.
corrugated metal?
I myself don't have a problem with them necessarily. I
They
mean,
put it on the
you can't
corner.
regulate
I don't even
everything.
know what-
I
and-
know you can't.
This is for duplexes and triplexes,
Not
not
in- not in
townhouses.
But
Okay.
they're administrative, right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
You're right.
By
This would
not
work.
regulating it, we're basically
Right.
letting
Right,
the
okay.
cat up. Let me ask you this, and I mean, this is crazy. But my wife and I were walking in the town of Goodison on Sunday, which is a very tiny little town where the Pink Creek cider mill used to be, right? Well, I guess it's still there. And we walked by a house on which is about the only street, it's like the street out of town. And it was a really nice farmhouse that sometime in the 20th century was papered over with brick pattern granulated tar paper. If we say nothing, technically, we could have brick pattern granulated tar paper. Now, oddly enough, it had a certain appeal. Walking by
Is
it
it still available?
at pedestrian speed, I'm kind of looking at it going, it's too bad that it was so worn, because I don't know if you can get it anymore.
I don't know.
But-
if you can.
You know, are there things I don't like? You know, I think there are some types of vinyl siding that are unattractive, but I'm not willing necessarily, like almost every one they sell off the rack at Home Depot is like the kind it's 4-inch shiplap, 4-inch exposure shiplap double or triple, and I prefer Dutch lap and again, if you don't know your sidings, this might not help you. But at the same time, as much as I revile it on commercial construction, unless it looks like a house, I don't know that we can go there with our folks, with
It's
the
a
residents.
it's a perfectly legitimate material.
Because I think you have to look at
Residential.
ordinance in terms of people who are renovating. Because we've been kind of concentrating on people who are building new here.
This is duplexes.
Okay, I understand. You're right. But
This is
I think we're kind of waxing back and forth between the entire administratively reviewed milieu, for lack of a.
Oh, I figured, we were all done. I didn't think we were doing anything with
Sorry.
materials for single family.
And
It's
that's fine.
just the duplexes.
So, I noticed, one of the things I noticed is, we don't limit the size of this thing. As long as your land is big enough and you have all the setbacks, this thing can be, I mean, there's a height restriction, but
Well, we say number of units, 2 or 3. We don't say it can't be
Right,
6.
Right.
6% lot.
But if I wanted to build a duplex and have both units be 400 square feet, I could.
Okay,
Long as it met the terms of the building code, had one room that was at least 12 by 12, had a bathroom, had a kitchen, had a bedroom. You know, there are code requirements. But I only bring that up because, I mean, the tiny house movement is kind of sweeping the nation here, good or bad. And there's nothing in what I've seen here tonight that actually precludes that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying that's something we need to come to terms with as a board.
That's a good point.
Back to materials, I'm
So
sorry.
you can build them out of shipping containers?
Um,
Do you have a problem with
yeah, well, metal siding. My,
The one going up in Royal Oak.
Well, that
right
would be
now.
a flat roof probably, so.
It would be a
it would
flat
have to
roof,
come to
it
us,
would-
well,
it would
nah,
come
you
to-
could put a 612.
Or you
pitch
could
on
throw a
that bad boy.
612 pitch on top of it, I
You
suppose.
could drop a truss on there and it would be fine. I have my own issues, containers house is another, we can have that discussion offline, because I don't think it helps the process here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and I don't mean to monopolize this. I really don't have a problem with materials on either duplex or triplex, again, as long as we're not talking about something that's so ungodly large that a broad expanse of corrugated metal suddenly becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how we can regulate that. It's not really the materials that bother me so much as the potential amount of any one.
How it's put together.
Yeah, I mean, you could perhaps relegate certain materials to accent materials or something along the lines. I mean, we do that with EFS on commercial buildings in certain communities that I work for.
Right, sure.
So-
And that's the nature of a form-based code, is to do
Right.
that sort of thing.
So, I mean, if you were worried about a large expanse of corrugated metal or some other material, it could be limited to just an accent material or, you know, what does accent mean, you know?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would a 100% all one material duplex or triplex be okay? All vinyl siding, all one color? Taupe?
Well, God. I think that's a little.
With taupe trim and a taupe roof?
It would look kind of humane to me.
Not exactly what we're looking for.
No.
But, Mr. Chair, we said this looked fine to us.
Just have a book of pictures.
This is all brick, right? Assumably?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, but the
Well,
brick, brick has a
Texture.
texture to it and you know,
Human scale.
it has scale to it, and it's, you know, it's broken up with mortar lines and what have you. It's not just,
Well, let's explore that issue, because I think brick is probably the one material that I could say, if you wanted a building that was all one material,
brick is
I
it.
could go for brick.
Yeah, no
But,
problem.
let me say, okay, what if I wanted one that was block, CMU?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring
Well,
up concrete masonry
I
units.
have
yeah.
seen, we had a house down the block from me.
First-
That was all CMU.
First block of Kenmore here between Edwards and 12
Uh-huh.
Mile, there is a
You know.
beautiful CMU house.
Yeah.
It is a Cape Cod, all done in CMU, and it's got a nice coat of white paint on it.
Yeah.
And an 8/12 pitch roof, and it is gorgeous, it really is a nice.
I have seen it, CM. We had one down on our block when we moved there. They unfortunately sided it over and now, no, to be honest with you, it looks like, yeah.
It looks like, well, I mean, you know, there's no confrontation, so.
So there you go.
But we're back to this issue of
Paper mache, you can't.
how much do we want to regulate this?
So is it more an issue if they decided to have a lovely Cape Cod with all the right proportions and they used concrete masonry, would there be an issue?
No,
No.
Okay, so it's really a proportion issue, is what I'm hearing from
yeah, it is.
those of you that are speaking. so.
Reality, that's what it is. It's the way it all, how it all
Okay.
comes together.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
all right, where are we now?
It's late.
Wait,
Let's see.
904.
Ooh, yeah.
Do you wanna keep going, or you wanna think about townhouses and flats more? Or do you wanna,
what's the desire of the planning commission?
think we've already said some things about townhouses.
We have.
Well, Mr. Chairman, do we have a bunch of stuff lined up for next month, Amy?
No.
That's all I need to
At
hear.
this point, you don't. I mean,
sounds like
the
we-
deadline is Friday. I only think there's going to be one thing, so.
Well, let's- I mean,
Let's move this to next month.
Okay, so
Continue on.
I do have some direction on townhouses. I can
Yep.
give Kathleen some guidance on the other. And in the meantime, you guys can,
Amy, one more thing, Mr. Chairman. The single family, 30 feet height, that's not Oakland Manor and St. John's Woods. Those are 35, are they not? 'Cause those are different.
yes, they are, and they
From
always
there, I
have
think
been. I
it's
think we upped
35.
everything by 5 feet back in the day.
Didn't we talk about leaving those as they are?
We did, I mean, just verify.
Okay. There's two single-family districts then.
30 would be leaving them as they are. Studio or manor, we actually allow 40.
40? Okay. Well, I'm just saying, there are two single-family districts then.
Right.
We talked about, okay, so this is just other than,
It's not
Oakland.
St. John Woods and it's not Oakland Manor.
okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. Thank you all for your input. Thank you. That was helpful.
So with that, we'll go to citizens' comments, and I don't see any citizens running, so we'll move to liaison reports. Ms. Hopp, you want to just let us use the,
Yeah,
That's-
that's fine. You've got the copy of the minutes, and
okay. All right,
it was a lively meeting, and again, there was next to no conversation about Coolidge.
okay. Chamber?
Chamber, I did attend the meeting on the 9th of September. Let's see, things that were reviewed, the pub crawl recap. They had 130 people, down from last year, but about the same as 2013. They think some of that might be due to the way the calendar fell this year, because kind of Dream Cruise and stuff kind of fell a little bit earlier. The golf outing was on the 18th of this month, which was last Friday. State of the City is going to be on October 16th. And let's see what else. I think some of the board members are stepping down or are required to step down, so they're looking for new board members. And that is about it for now.
Okay. Environmental?
Nothing to report this month.
Okay. I attended the city council meeting last night. It was a long meeting, and their package was 335 pages long.
God, it's a book.
So needless to say, it was an interesting meeting. I will, our former colleague, Dean Smith, was appointed last night to the ZBA.
Oh, very good.
And so he'll be on the ZBA. I believe they're going to be meeting next month or something.
Yeah,
They have a meeting
yep,
next
October
month.
12th.
So I'm not sure if they got stuff on their agenda. They also approved, I think most of you saw the HRC proposal for the study of 12 Mile and Robina and Gardner. They approved that funding last night.
HRC is a good firm.
And also on the agenda, the fiber optic project is moving ahead. They approved contracts for DTE and AT&T for poles, using the poles. I guess that's going to move ahead. I thought it was almost done, but evidently they haven't started it yet, so.
It's been, this is the final thing that needs to be done
Yeah.
before they can, yeah.
So they
start.
approved all that
Yep.
last night. And then, of course, they spent a lot of time on this new emergency plan for the city, which is moving forward, and that's another long and involved. I think that's 99 pages or something. length. Anybody wants to look at that. And meeting lasted till about 9:30 last night. Those are the important pieces, I think, that concerned us in one way or another. So with that, I'll run around the room. Mr. Tengari, you got anything this evening?
No, sir.
Hmm?
No.
Ms. Shado?
All set.
Mr. Morel?
I'm bringing my copy of a pattern language to our next meeting when we do this.
I have one
I can bring
too,
my
so
copy
we can
too.
share.
I have a copy somewhere.
I have nothing tonight.
All set.
Mr. Richardson?
Two quick things. I'd like to congratulate our Mayor O'Dwyer on being elected to the Michigan Irish American Hall of Fame. He was
Yes.
inducted last Saturday.
Yes, he was.
Second thing, I understand that our longtime city manager, Jane Bias-DeSessa, is going to be leaving for a new position in Pontiac. I personally would like to thank her for her, not only for her service to the community, but for being very helpful to me in the various roles that I have had as a volunteer with the city. I've always found Jane to be responsive to my concerns, and I'm speaking from a personal point of view, but I just thought I'd like to acknowledge her service.
Mr. Martin Smith?
Mr. Chairman, about a year ago, I went on one of my rants about the Coolidge was newly painted, and I mentioned about I asked the question about the parking spaces. You know, people know they can park there, but now the spaces, the paint's gone, so, but they know they can park there, they just don't know where, so they park everywhere. Well, it's September again, and they're still not painted. Was told at the time it's a separate contract, it was too late. Is it too late again this year? I'm just,
I don't know.
yeah, but it's been 12 months and nothing's happened, and it's not a good situation. I guess my question is to the city council, are there any plans to do this? Because this time last year we were told, or at least Amy, you were told that it was too late to deal with. Another related issue is that I don't want to lose the fact of the lanes on Coolidge. We've had a lot of discussions in the past, 4 lanes versus 3. What we have isn't working with the 4 lanes and sometimes a 5th lane. We've all seen the models, the cartoons, the simulations. I don't want to lose that. I want us to bring that up again, or I want that to be ongoing. There's still opportunity to investigate one over the other. And I've said how I feel about traffic. You know, we have very good traffic engineers, but that's not the end of it.
Okay.
Their opinion. So I just want to, I don't want that to disappear. And I'm going to be bringing it up every couple of months. And I think it's something we can't just sweep it under the rug at this point.
Okay.
I support what you said there.
I totally,
yeah.
I totally agree, and there was another rear view mirror on the driver's side removed suddenly, and it went scooting down the street. And, you know, that happens all the time. And the older our citizens get, the further away from the curb they park. And that happens,
And I need a bigger envelope.
all of us.
Okay. All right. Ms. Vanson, anything?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, I don't have anything further to say tonight, I think, except I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Morrell, seconded by...
Martin and Pop.
All those in favor, aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.